Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And I'm appreciative that people didn't all drop out when they heard that I was going to fill in for Christopher McPherson. We're sorry that he can't be here this evening. He has some health issues, and we wish him good health. And he's with me because he gave me some notes on Melamine timeline, which I'm going to follow and then ad lib about. So what I don't have are his images, so I will be sharing more things that are in the collection of the museum, the International Museum of Dinnerware Design. I am director and curator of that museum. I should put in a plug for us. I hope you'll visit our website, which I'll list later on, and look at all the online shows and things that we have. And I want to thank the Ann Arbor District Library for hosting this event this evening. We're very appreciative of their partnership in this event. And I think without further ado, thank you for joining, and I'm going to share my screen momentarily and get started. So I actually will. So this evening, I'm going to talk about plastic dishes on the table, but not all plastic dishes. I'm going to talk about America's love affair specifically with melamine, which I'll be explaining what that is as we go along. And in case you don't get enough information from this talk, there is a lot of it available, and I would recommend Christopher McPherson's website, which is plasticliving.com. And he'll answer all your questions through there that are raised this evening that I can't handle. But otherwise, if you want to know more about the museum, then it's dinnerwaremuseum.org, and there's more information there. So my disclaimer tonight that my PhD isn't in melamine, but more like Chinese ceramics. So here I am with plastic, and I'd have to say without any hesitation that I'm in love with plastic, just as mid-century America was. And in a show we did, a special exhibition which was all about cups. We had this one stack of plastic, mostly melamine dinnerware, and I just love everything about it. So Christopher McPherson defines the golden age of plastic dinnerware, basically 1946 to 1960, which isn't very long, and it won't take me terribly long to show you some highlights of that. And then I'm going to wax on about one designer from that time period who got me even more enthusiastic about melamine and plastic dinnerware. So first I want to define a few terms, and maybe all of you know this, but I love learning as we go along here, but all melamine is plastic, but not all plastic is melamine. That's important. And then all melmac is melamine, in case you thought the words were interchangeable, but not all melamine is melmac. And that's because melmac was actually a trademark for melamine that was produced by American Cyanamid. And then on one website, and I can't remember which one it was because I looked at many, they were talking about melamine, that they said that melamine is plastic's prettier older sister. And I'm still thinking about what the heck that means. So I don't know if that's a real deep philosophical thing, but it is an interesting comment. So melamine is harder than plastic, but it still consists of harsh chemicals that don't break down in the environment. And tonight, I'm not going to wax on about plastic being with us forever because we can't get rid of it, but it is something to keep in mind. But the time period that we're talking about, the golden age of plastic dinnerware, this is when plastic really is new. It's in all different formations, and people were totally excited about it, probably just like everybody wanted porcelain back when China discovered it during the Tang Dynasty in the 8th or 9th century, and everybody in Europe wanted it, and they didn't get it for 1,000 years. But anyway, tonight, melamine. So melamine is a hard, rigid plastic that's molded from a resin made of urea and formaldehyde. That sounds very attractive for your table, I'm sure. It's also heat resistant, and that's a very important thing and why melamine was so successful. But cautionary tale, not table, never put it in your microwave or oven. Even the guarantees that came with Melmac when it was the hot thing, and I don't, no pun intended, when it was the hot thing, it said not to use it in your oven or on your tabletop. They didn't have microwaves in every home then, or anywhere probably. And so I'm also going to tell you what I'm not going to talk about tonight, because we're talking about melamine, which is a specific kind of plastic. But I love this ad so much, I had to share it in case you haven't seen it. And so Dow Chemical had their own kind of dinnerware that they produced that was called Styron, which is polystyrene. And but that's their brand name, Styron. But I love this ad because they have plastics in the ad, the colors that are all the mid-century wonderful colors of plastic, that it's American as apple pie. And then it took me a moment to understand that this handsome young man in this image was eating a piece of pie with his fingers, which isn't exactly how I was raised to eat pie. But I did think it was a great image, and it has wonderful dinnerware on it. But we're not talking about polystyrene dishes, we're talking about melamine. So starting with, and if Christopher McPherson is watching this evening, please forgive me for any liberties I've taken with your timeline and any images that I put in, because none of them were yours. So, but he mentioned that in 1834, there was a German chemist named Justus von Liebig who synthesized melamine. And I will tell you, if you have spare time ever, this is somebody you should really Google and read about, because he was a controversial figure, and I'm not going to give any secrets away, but he's really interesting. And you might think that this wonderful image I found of Liebig in his laboratory has something to do with synthesizing melamine, but actually it's about him inventing bouillon cubes. So if any of you are culinary historians, I just found it quite interesting that he invented the bouillon cube, and this is an advertisement, I think, for it. So back to the timeline, excerpted kind of from Christopher's notes. So the first urea formaldehyde was synthesized in 1884, and then the commercially successful thermosetting molding material was produced by the British Cyanide Company, and that was in the UK. It was based on a mixture of thiourea and urea formaldehyde, and that was in 1928. There will not be a test afterwards, and please don't ask me any questions about this. But the urea formaldehyde is a resin or a polymer that's used in adhesives, plywood, particle board, formica, dry erase boards, and other molded objects. And then in 1937, I guess the melamine discovery was rediscovered by American Cyanamid, and they're in New York. So American Cyanamid also made beetleware, which isn't melamine. It's a different kind of urea formaldehyde resin, and that's telling you that not all urea formaldehyde resins are melamine. So moving right along, I just had to share what beetleware looks like in case you aren't familiar with it. Or if you're just focused on melamine and you don't pay any attention to anything else. This is the real color that it is. And it was produced around 1936, and some of it was given to my museum by a woman whose father worked at American Cyanamid. And so it had been in their family for years. It's more brittle, not just because it's older, but it's more brittle because some pieces we had some chips in them. And not only do I love the color, but I also love that it was patented. And if you look at the patent on it, and this is the actual patent there, and I'm showing two back stamps on the bottom of beetleware, which identify what it is. And only one of them has the patent number on it, but very clear, so you can go research all about the urea and formaldehyde thing that made up beetleware that isn't melamine. And then continuing on the timeline, there's a lot of information at Christopher McPherson's Living with Plastic website, which has to do with John Haydu, which was someone I was not familiar with until a few years ago. And this designer was commissioned in around 1940 by the US Navy to create some melamine dinnerware. And let's think about the Navy's dishes. Before that, they were heavy, they took up lots of room, they broke easily. So the melamine, which is break resistant and stacks easily, it's lightweight and all that, was the perfect solution. So they worked for years on this kind of commission for the US Navy. I think the airlines use some of this too. Of course, think of the weight that would save on an airline. And then in 1945, the dinnerware was sold to the public under the name Watertown Ware, and it was produced by Watertown Manufacturing Company. Around the same time, American Cyanamid hired Russell Wright to design melamine dinnerware prototypes, which were marketed under the name Melodor. And I have stolen this image from the website of Cindy Fonestock Schaefer's website. And so in 1949, this kind of ware that you're looking at, kind of upside down, but we have none of it in the museum in case anyone wants to donate some. But in 1946, John Haydu designed lifetime ware by Watertown, and it was hugely popular, so that the factories were overwhelmed by orders, and it was just a major, major success. So recently I was able to purchase a box. This is an original 16-piece starter set of the lifetime ware that John Haydu designed. And here it is as I'm opening the box. It's just like it brand new and nobody's used it. It's got the guarantees and all of that. And that's what the beautiful colors look like set up. So this is lifetime ware. And I'm not the first museum who likes to collect this stuff, because back in 1947-48, the Museum of Modern Art accessioned this grouping of lifetime ware that John Haydu designed into their permanent collection. And I don't know if that color is accurate, and someone else would have to tell me if that's just a true color or a different, or maybe it's a little bluer than that. But here's a picture of that same work. You can see on the front of the table, the 4 groups in the very front, which were from 100 useful objects of fine design available under $100. It was an exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art from 47 to 48. And this kind of information, besides advertisements, are really great information about when something really was fabulous. And this is when melamine is like the thing now. All the different companies are making it. It's attracting all the different companies to invite designers that are well known to create new lines for them. I'll have to say, from what I've read, that it was really annoying to the China manufacturers that melamine was such a great hit in the homes, in airlines, in the Navy, every place you can think. It's substituted for ceramics. And in fact, I was told that there are interviews with people like Joan Luntz, who said that the ceramics company actually kind of petitioned for department stores to not stock the melamine, or to put it segregated into a different place. So kind of the backdrop that you see behind me in my Zoom background there, which says Melmac Central or Center on it, is kind of a department in a store that was separate from the China sellers there. But we'll get back to that later. But anyway, it was a big success. So Joan Luntz designed the first consumer melamine for International Molded Plastics, which was later named Brook Park, and then the first commercial line, Arrowhead and Everware. And then I've illustrated here Belle Cogan's designing of a melamine line for Buntan, along with her image. And then I've added into his timetable the designer I'm going to talk at more detail about in a couple of minutes. And that's Kay Lemoyne, who designed ebonite in the 1940s, 46, 47. But in 1948, Christopher McPherson has this wonderful ad for ebonite that was in a store in Elmhurst in Queens, what's now Queens. And it shows this wonderful ware, which I just immediately fell in love with, that has, it looks like Japanese or Chinese lacquer ware with Chinese characters on it, bamboo handles. It really is one of my very favorites. But following the timeline along, 1949, Brook Park Modern Design that Joan Luntz designed came into effect. These are objects in our collection along with the back stamp. I'm sure if you collect melamine, you have all these things. And then this is an original color photo which is in our archives at the International Museum of Dinnerware Design. It's a color photo that belonged to Kay Lemoyne, and he kept all kinds of design drawings and photographs of work that he designed. In this case, I'm just going to show you the dinnerware pretty much, but this was sold at his estate, and collector Scott Hamblin purchased these things, and he donated quite a large amount of original design drawings by Kay Lemoyne and these kind of photographs to our museum. And we're so lucky because this was first introduced in 1952. These photos have been around a long time. And here is some of the actual Color Flight dinnerware that was just on display in that ad. And this is called spray green, just like Russell Wright named all his things sea foam and great colors, coral. These had great names too, which I'll mention in a moment more detail. But speaking of Russell Wright, Northern Chemical in Boston and Russell Wright designed this work called Residential Line, which is 1953, and it's the first one that had translucent flecks in it. And these are some pieces in our collection, along with the back stamp. And then chronologically, as we're going through into the 50s, where there's so much Melmac being designed and melamine. So Irving Harper of the George Nelson Design Group invented this wonderful shape called Florence. And on Florence, they put these great decals, Coralier, and my favorite, which is Regatta, which I'm going to show you here. Here's an ad that has a number of the Florence patterns from Prolon. And then here's a detail of that. And I'm so dying of envy that they have the creamer and the covered sugar with that, because I certainly don't. These are the pieces, we have a whole set of it, but no serving pieces in the regatta shape. And I just think it's a great design, not only the shape, but also the pattern on the pieces. And then we do collect some original box sets, and these are Prolon that Vicky Matranga donated to the museum a number of years ago. So whole place settings, and you can read that they're Dawn Gray and Hunter Green and whatnot. And then chronologically, we're up to 1956, where Joan Luntz designed Fantasy. And this is highlighted because of the new decal process that's on it. And I took this photo from an eBay auction, and then I noticed somebody won it. And so I thank, if they're watching tonight, I thank them for sharing their new dinnerware with us. And here's the back stamp from that Fantasy. And then I love this. We don't own any of this yet, but this is Evening Song pattern, which is Lucent produced with Raymond Loewy as designer. So it's Melmac with an inlaid pattern, and here you can see that more clearly. I took this also from an eBay auction. Thank you, eBay. And here's the back stamp for this Lucent Melmac. And you can see they're proudly advertising that they're Melmac. And you can just see how many different kinds of, and we're just seeing a few of them, great designers are working in melamine at this time. So here's Northern Chemical with Russell Wright as designer coming up with one of my top favorites, which is Ming Lace, which is 1959. And these are real Chinese jade leaves embedded in the plastic. So no two of them are alike. A fantastic idea and really beautiful. And here you can see how translucent this is. It's got a translucency like porcelain. And then the back stamp doesn't show up too well on the right side, which shows you the Ming Lace, but in pink, it shows up pretty good. So it's flare. And here's what the pink looks like. And you can't see a better form than these. The shapes are just fantastic. So this is Russell Wright. And then Christopher McPherson has defined the golden age of melamine design ending about 1960. And there's a number of reasons why melamine declined. And don't get ready to leave yet, because I have a few more things I want to say. But around this time period, this is when there's a lot of pressure coming in from kind of cheap imports of melamine type products or plastics, dinnerware. And supposedly the China companies either bought out the plastic companies and closed them, or they bought them and they made plastics that were inferior, so people had less comfort level and less assurance that their melamine was any good. So after the next 20 years, because everybody says, oh, well, I had melamine and Melmac and whatever in the 70s and 80s and whatnot, but actually you've got to admit that probably they weren't as well designed as these. They were thinner, cheaper, kind of tarnished the name of melamine or plasticware as a dining thing. And before I wax on about Kay Lemoine for a couple of minutes, I want to thank Christopher McPherson, Dennis Teepee, who's been a great influence on my education, and Cindy Fonestock Schaefer, and then also Kay Lemoine's granddaughter, and I thank her even more for what I'm about to show you, Brandy Whitna. And then Scott Hamblin, because I wouldn't be caring as much about this if he hadn't given us a treasure trove of archival materials. And then he also recently, because he found out I was going to be doing this presentation, scanned more materials that he still has in his possession. So thank you, Scott, for that. Okay, so who is this gentleman by the Izetta? And if you don't know what an Izetta is, I'll let you read about that more, but it's that little car there. The first small car that came out, I think, in the 60s. And what's it got to do with my obsession with plastic dinnerware? Well, this man you're looking at here is actually Kay Lemoine, and he created this ebonite, which I've already shown you a little bit about. But my husband and I, a few years ago when we were antiquing, saw some at an antique shop in Rochester, and it was dirty. It wasn't beat up, but it was just dirty. And I was like, what is that? You know, it was new to me. And I just loved all the Chinesey aspects about it. And then I started exploring about Kay Lemoine. So this designer was born Kay Lemoine Whitna, and in Kansas, and lived from 1918 to 1992. And I don't know much about his education, but actually in about a week, I'm going to be at Syracuse University in their archives, exploring some papers that are related to perhaps the manufacture of ebonite. So I'm excited about that. But in Scott Hamlin's papers that he still holds about Kay Lemoine, he studied at the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts. Here's his grades that you can see on the screen in front of you, where he got excellence in all these things to do with lettering and industrial architecture. He got a W, which is well instead of excellent, in figure drawing, but I don't have any examples to show you of that. But here he got his certificate for 20 months of study in their fine arts department. And then Kay Lemoine worked as a freelance designer, and one of the jobs he held was, freelance jobs he held was at Dunbar Glass in West Virginia. Now the example that you're looking at here called Bamboo, which is stunning, I think. I don't know that it was made at Dunbar Glass, I have no idea. And he did do this original drawing, and we don't actually know if this set ever got manufactured, but I hope it did. And I hope one of you has some and you're gonna email me about it. Or text me afterwards. And this is from the collection that Scott Hamblin has. But what has intrigued me, which I'm hoping to get the answer for in a week, is that I believe that Helmish Manufacturing, which was in St. Louis, which was founded by Edward Helmish around 1946, that they designed the ebonite with Kay Lemoine. It became Branchell in 1952, and Kay Lemoine was the sole designer there until 1958, when the company was sold to Lenox. Now that kind of fits in with what I've been telling you about how companies, Lenox was a China company. Lenox bought this bought Branchell, which was a plastics manufacturer. So who also had a company, or a manufacturing facility in Puerto Rico, which I hope to learn a little bit more about. But Kay Lemoine designed at Branchell the important Melmac lines, Color Flight and Royale, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. So I'm looking at the whole connection. And what excites me a lot is that, you know, when you read about somebody's papers and you're going to go do research and you're thinking of X number of linear square feet of somebody's old correspondence and whatever. But they actually, in the papers at Syracuse, they actually have real examples of ebonite, Color Flight, and Royale dishes in their file boxes. So I'm psyched to see that, and I believe that's proof that Helmish was where they were manufactured in the 40s. So once again, here's the ad verifying that in 1948, at least, this stuff had been produced and they were selling it and advertising it in department stores. Here's a little group picture of some of it. I now have hundreds of pieces of ebonite, probably from the late 1940s. And then here's a detail of a top of a piece, just to show you how really remarkably interesting it is. And then almost all the pieces of ebonite are designed with these Chinese characters, zhenwei, which can be translated as authentic or good taste, true flavor. Quite often when you're looking at the dinnerware, you see them kind of upside down. But here's the back stamp. It doesn't say Helmish, it doesn't say Branchell, it doesn't say anything except for in handwriting. These aren't decals or whatever, and it looks like a kind of paint. It says a K. Lemoyne original or a K. Lemoyne ebonite or K. Lemoyne ebonite. So somebody actually mimicked his handwriting, because I doubt he signed thousands of pieces. But if you look at these photographs here, which he did sign, these are from his archives that are now at our museum, that show some of the black and perhaps white ebonite, which I don't have any of, and I'm hoping to see in Syracuse. And I believe these are probably white, because I don't think these are black and white photos, but obviously they're not black, and I don't think they're another color. Many of the photos have a back stamp, a seal on them like this, which says K. Lemoyne Whitna on them, which I hope to discover if there was a time period where he quit using the Whitna part of his last name. And then what I believe is quite rare, we have these in our museum collection. These obviously are green ebonite, and someone actually contacted me that had these or got them at a yard sale, and I did get them. So waxing on just a bit more about K. Lemoyne. So Melmac, to be clear, because what I'm showing you is Melmac from now on, is a brand name for melamine, and was sold with people saying Melmac is the magic name in dinnerware. So it was really promoted, and they didn't really allow weren't Melmac to be shown in the same ads. It was break resistant, spurns chipping, cracking, and warping. It's accident proof. And then my favorite, as seen on television, and here in the color flight boxes, display boxes that we have photos of in our archives, are the words as seen on television. They're with the guarantee, because it was all guaranteed. This is a flyer we have in our archives that's dated July 1953, which tells you the good points about the color flight, and another advertisement from 1954 with the Melmac hang tag on it there, how prestigious that was, and showing you how the table settings would have looked then. And then some advertising from 1957. So this time, the work had been out for like 5 years. So here's your colors: spray lime, glow copper, glade green, mist gray. And what's interesting is that K. Lemoyne's known for designing color flight, and he's also known for designing, which came with a guarantee certificate, and how to care for it, not using it on an open flame or it would nullify the guarantee. And here's some more color flight. But the shapes that are color flight are also used on some of the other major line, the Royale. In between those and connected with it is the pattern called Flight, which is my favorite pattern of Melmac, melamine. And that's the one on the left with the stylized birds in flight that are turquoise, flame pink, and a charcoal gray. And then here they are in actual dishes in our collection. And in the ad, you can see they pair it with turquoise. Well, I paired it with the flame pink, which is the Royale. So the turquoise and the flame pink are Royale. And here's a group picture of them. I think you'll find them as attractive as I do. And then best of all, we have this original design drawing from the 1950s that K. Lemoyne did. So this was in with his estate things. He kept things in his house, which he also designed. But this is an original drawing of that pattern, the Flight. And thank you, Scott, for donating that. He donated a number of wonderful designs. The Flight went into production, but some of these other ones, if you have one, I'd like to know about it. but he did these other patterns. Now this one looks like a couple of patterns that did go into production at Branch L. These are all Branch L things. Button flower looks a little bit, so here's the design pattern we have, and here's button flower in our collection. And then there's also the spring light, which isn't the same pattern, but it's related, also Branch L, Melmac. And then the Royale came out about the same time. And what baffled me for a while was the fact that we got two different sets of colors. And so this one came in gardenia white, charcoal gray, flame pink, and turquoise, not the colors that the other one came in, but the shapes are identical, except with the creams and sugars and the lug soup and maybe something else, which is eluding me at this moment. But the shapes were basically the same. And so these are advertised as Branch L Royale that Kay Lemoine designed. And then here they're both in this newspaper ad that Kay Lemoine saved in his files, which shows the color flight on the left and the Royale on the right. And you can see the shapes look pretty much identical the way they're showing them and the prices. And then at some point they advertise them together. So Royale is in little print and color flight's in big print. But this set that you're looking at in color and then the black and white is all the actual color flight. None of it's Royale because the colors are not the colors of Royale, but they're advertised as one, which tells you about the popularity and the interest in it. And then that transpired into this ad from 1957 from Ladies Home Journal, which you can see I stole from eBay or Etsy or something. And in this ad, they are advertising you can save over half price, like all these cups and saucer sets, which are in, if you see them lining vertically there, and all the different colors for both Color Flight and Royale. And then you can get the luncheon plate thrown in for another $1. So they're advertising them together. And maybe that has to do with the popularity or the demise of Melamine, I'm not sure. But also in our archives, we have original design drawings of some of the different forms. In this case, it's charcoal or a pencil drawing of the creams and sugars and gravies. And then here we have the actual pieces. So these are Royale. And I would only know that because of the color. Otherwise, they wouldn't be turquoise. And then this is what the back stamp. And this is what interests me and what confused me for a while, was the fact that on the left in the copper glow is the Color Flight in that orangey color, and then the blue is the Royale. Neither one says that on either one of them. They all have exactly the same back stamp advertising Branch L, Melmac. It's in St. Louis, and that Kay Lemoine's the designer. So those were the important things. They didn't say which of the patterns it was. And then here's a lovely thing which mixes up both of them, and here's even more of them. So this is Color Flight and Royale together. And then we have a lot of black and white photos that came with Kay Lemoine's estate. And these photos are interesting because they show what people, how they were advertising and marketing these table settings, even though the photos were all black and white. In this case, I can tell it's Royale because it has white in it. And then we have design drawings from pieces I have not seen, which I hope somebody has one of, that would absolutely go with either one of those sets, either Color Flight or Royale. So original drawings. And then one of my other favorite things are these blueprints that Branch L put out that show the whole list on the left there of all the different pages. It's a multi-page thing that has forks and knives and spoons. This is all their matching flatware that they came up with. It's all dated 1956. And I'm just showing you a couple of images, that case a fork, this case a spoon, detailed drawings. And then Kay Lemoine also, besides doing those, because those are all signed and sealed by him in 1956, he also did design sketches for the boxes for the flatware. And then this is what the actual boxes look like. These are in our collection. These go with the Royale set because you can see the turquoise and the flame pink here. So he designed the whole thing, the boxes and everything else. And then it's always the little weird things that interest me once I get past the beauty and fun of all of the great dinnerware. And this is a whole thing that Kay Lemoine designed called the Profiteer. So here for $42, you can get all the Melmac that's on here, the color flight, and the design stand. And it all fits in, it says it fits in less than 2 square feet of counter space. And this is going to do a complete selling job. So I love that. So he's got his own advertising of his advertising. So, and then to wrap up Kay Lemoine, so he not only designed all the Melmac I'm showing you that I love, but he also designed golf courses, a visual refrigerator, which you can see there. It's kind of round and you can see into it, and it can go in a corner or it can go against a wall. He designed airplane parts, which I don't have any pictures of, and interiors for North American Rockwell. He designed glassware. I have one example that I'm showing you of a coffee parts, and he designed ashtrays. Those are in our permanent collection, and stationery, letterhead, that kind of thing, and lots more things. And then when I'm looking at winding up Kay Lemoine, I found these for sale. I haven't purchased them, but I actually questioned whether or not these were Kay Lemoine's designs, and maybe the color was a little off until I saw, so here's another view of them. I think they're actually green. And those are aluminum handles that are screwed onto the pieces. And I thought maybe somebody did that later, till I saw one of them has a back stamp, which has color flight written in the right script and in silver paint or silver color, which matches the aluminum. So, so that's a mystery. And then the other mystery I have with Kay Lemoine's Branch L, and I know this is kind of hard to read this back stamp, but it's the same back stamp you saw on everything I've shown you, that where it doesn't say which pattern it is. So here it is in mottled pastels. And so depending on what kind of lighting you're in, they look peach or blue, or they look, oh, excuse me, let's make that pink and blue, or they look peach and green. And so these are not, we didn't play with Photoshop or color correct on anything, but depending on what lighting you have, the dishes appear to be different colors. Now I know ceramics people who use glazes which change depending on the light you're in, and they are these kind of hues. So there's something I still have to investigate about those colors and what that means. And then here's my summary about Kay Lemoine. So you collect melamine, I'm guessing, if you're paying attention tonight, or you liked it when you were a child. And he collected Izettas. I think he had a dozen, 2 dozen at some point. And he also designed the Melmac that you loved. And then he designed spare parts, which I've misspelled, spare parts for BMW Izetta. They bought Izetta after it was in existence for like 7 years, I think. But he couldn't get spare parts for his, so he started designing the spare parts for his Izettas and everyone else's. So that's our last shot of Kay Lemoine, and it's basically my end of the melamine heyday and the end of my story. And this is to show you that at the bottom of those dishes, those mystery dishes, where they look either blue and pink or peach and green, this broken saucer was at the bottom, which just shows you that yes, your melamine will break if it's not packed quite right, and if it's not cared for. And then just a reminder that plasticliving.com is where you should go for more information from Christopher McPherson, or our website if you want to see other videos that we have made with the library. Also a reminder that on November 9th, we'll be doing, so 1 month from today, we'll be doing another one of these unforgettable dinnerware episodes, and that will be with Heath Ceramics in California and San Francisco Bay and Sausalito. And I think you'll love learning about Edith Heath if you don't already know about her as a designer, and what a fantastic company she had, and what a fantastic company it is still today, because it is still going. And I think if you have questions, if you're willing to put them in the chat, that would be ideal rather than a hand raising, but we'll deal with whatever you give to us. And I thank you very much for attending this evening. So we'll now go to questions, and I'm going to. So I've stopped sharing, and I'm willing to take any questions that people might have. And I think my husband's going to read them if there is anything. So does anybody have questions about melamine or what I presented or something I haven't presented?
Okay, some questions are coming in.
And I'm sorry I didn't tell you beforehand that you should put your questions in the chat. I apologize for that.
So the first question is, were the handles on the ebonite made of wood, and how would that set be manufactured?
The handles on the ebonite are bamboo, and those must have been, I'm guessing, hand attached to the cups and saucers and the covered boxes and the few other things, serving dishes and things like that. So I think that that would have been another process in the assembly. I don't know how common ebonite is. I see it on you know, auction houses, being eBay and Etsy, that kind of thing. I see them all the time. I don't know if they sell. I don't know if anybody likes it but me. But it would have just added another, I think, the set, because they would have had the hand painted back stamps on them, and all of that would have been labor intensive.
Another question, or maybe more of a comment. I believe the Russell Wright Melmac used actual leaves in the design.
That's true. That's true. Those were, I thought I said that, but they were jade leaves from China.
And another comment, thanks so much for all of the information about Kay Lemoyne. And just to thank you for a cool session.
Thank you for being here. Any other questions? Or
well, here's a question.
The flattery will get you everywhere. So
how did the ashtrays hold up? I seem to remember burn marks.
Oh yes, well, my parents smoked, and so at both ends of our dining table were melamine or Melmac or some kind of plastic, but I'm not sure which, but I think they were probably melamine. And yes, indeed, after you stub your cigarettes out in them, not only do they have burn marks, but they smell awful also. So it's bad cigarette smell mixed with plastic burning.
Another question, have you seen the tiny ashtrays by Branchell?
Oh, which ones? You'll have to send me a picture. A director at dinnerwaremuseum.org. Love to see that.
Another comment, Cindy, who I think you mentioned, also has a site on Melmac at it's retrochalet.blogspot.com.
Yes, yes, yes. I should have put that up too. That's fabulous. In fact, I think she uses this same image. We own the advertisement too, so I can use it. But I think she has this image on her website. And I've visited it so many times, hundreds of times.
Another question. My experience with plastic dinnerware was in the 60s, and I recall that eventually they got very stained. Was this just cheap stuff, or was this a problem with Melmac?
It was stain resistant. I imagine it would depend on what kind of use or abuse you were subjecting it to, but much more stain resistant than any kind of plastic that came before or after.
Is there any relationship to Courac? C-O-U-R-A-C?
I've heard of that, but I don't know. Someone else might know the answer to that.
And another comment, I grew up with chunky, colorful Melmac, very exciting to our 50s family. Now have Boonton pieces for outdoors. This was a great history, or this was great history.
Oh, you're lucky you had all that.
Another question, first a comment, terrific talk.
Thank you.
And Bakelite also produced tableware in the 30s and 40s. Is this earlier?
I think Bakelite was like the first plastic, if we can say that, in like 1907. We have like a napkin holder and some other things like that, but we don't have anything in terms of actual dishes. But anyway, yes, it was a predecessor, but it was not heat resistant and all of the things like melamine was. That's why this was the golden age. But Bakelite's beautiful, but I prefer it for like jewelry or something else, like napkin rings, something.
So speaking of stains and also scratches, do you have any ideas about cleaners to get those out? Soft scrub does not work, incidentally.
I think soft scrub sounds too abrasive. What I've read, and frankly, if people that know me know that I accept dishes that are cracked and chipped and dirty, and not dirty, but stained or something, because if people use them, that's a recording of their use. So I don't really try to get stains or knife marks off of things, but magic eraser is supposedly something that removes some marks from melamine. But other people could chime in and say what they use if they'd like. And I think there's lots of information out there.
Okay, I don't see any more questions or comments coming in. I don't see.
In that case, we're gonna wrap it up. What, is there anything else?
No, guess not.
So thank you very much for attending this evening, and have a good rest of the day wherever you are. Bye.